Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 5 of the Rewatch podcast presented by the Terrible Video Gamers Club. I'm your host, Tyler Schatz, the secret fourth computer in the Magi system. Joining me this fine recording session is one Stephen Howard.
Who, like the South Pole, is also a desolate wasteland with no life to survive.
Accurate. Amanda Howard.
I was wondering how many different kinds of computers and versions I have inside me immediately. Definitely more than 3.
One Josh Cox.
Who also had a reference to the South Pole being a place that is devoid of life, ready to go, but now can't follow that up.
And last, but certainly not least, one Gary the Lady.
Very interested in this show as it's turned from being a monster of the week to an administrative issue of the week.
Gary dropping the real truth bomb here.
Well, we are here to continue our discussion on the show Neon Genesis Evangelion. Having watched 3 episodes this time, we're going to kick it off discussing episode 11. JC?
Episode 11, The Day Tokyo 3 Stood Still, or In the Still Darkness. A citywide power outage puts NERV into a crisis as another angel invades Tokyo 3. Shinji, Rei, and Asuka attempt to make their way into the headquarters as NERV personnel ready the EVAs for manual deployment.
All right. The only thing I just wanted to kind of kick it off with is I like at the beginning there, they talk about the city council basically just being the charade. It's like, oh, the Magi really does everything. We just have this group here that says yes to it all there. So I thought that was interesting kind of world building of how this is all set up and kind of run off of an AI system there, kind of deciding what everyone does. Gary?
I actually started this episode assuming it was a flashback because you get all these, you don't see the kids right away. You see all the adults, and I was like, oh, well, maybe this is like a flashback from like a time ago. And the other dude, I don't remember him having a ponytail. Like, or is he a different character, a different dude?
Same guy.
So, yeah, there's kind of the folks that kind of run the terminals of Central Dogma, and yeah, that guy I think has always had a ponytail.
Oh, see, I got confused him with the guy who like fled the ship.
Oh, Kaji, yeah.
Yeah,
they have a bit of a.
I just assumed it was the same guy,
look.
And that's why I thought it was a flashback because I thought he was like a 1980s Kaji with a ponytail.
Yeah, and that's fair because I think this episode is the first time we really get to see a lot of them on screen because usually it's just like quick cuts away from whatever the actual action is and then like, oh no, this is happening, and then back to the action.
I was going to point out is I like this episode for the fact that it does give a lot of these kind of side characters a little bit more flesh to them, a little bit more of a world building. You see them doing their own stuff on, how they live their lives. And even Amanda at one point, I think it was the girl, I don't know their names for the life of me, but the girl that's always in the command center, Amanda's sitting there like, who the heck is this? I'm like, she's in the command center. She sits there, remember? She's in the command center. Like they're living their lives. They're having a good old time.
Also, the phone call between Commander Ikari and Shinji. I assumed it was a flash. That was another thing that thought maybe think it was a flashback because I was like, oh, well, he's calling him on a cell phone. I thought this was him off in his orphanage or whatever the hell he was doing before the show started, and he called his dad for like a hey dad, how you doing? And he's like, F off, little kid. I got better crap to do. Yeah, my other note is Commander Ikari is a huge ass hat for the way he talks to his son. Like,
right.
Like, why did it even take? Why do you accept the phone call if you're just gonna be a dick? Like, he could have just like had his receptionist say, "Hey, he's busy. Leave a message." Like, don't answer the phone call if you're gonna be that
Because
guy.
then he doesn't get to be a dick to his son. That's what he's all about.
I mean, that scene could still exist if he got cut off while giving a message to the receptionist. Would have still happened. Like, he didn't need to be in that scene.
I do like the idea that he still has that operator is listening in to monitoring all the calls, because even while Shinji's still on the phone with him, he's like, stop putting calls through from Shinji. Like, just, what are you doing? Don't let me talk to him. I have Misato to do this. Just savage. Ridiculous scene.
Yeah, that was so. I don't know. That was what kind of took me out of the episode, is because for quite a while I thought it was a flashback because I didn't like. Yeah, and these episodes are very, very heavy in not the three kids. Like,
Yeah, it's world building.
Yeah.
Putting flesh
you
on
can
the
make
people.
better
like I said.
world building than just like just jumping away from the characters that people care about to just like administrative assistance.
You have like 30 minutes, less than that actually, each episode to tell a story here. You can't just focus on the three characters and then not do any world building beyond that.
You can do world building in bits and pieces. You don't have to spend the whole episode like literally in this episode, the three kids are only there like climbing through tunnels. And if anything, that seemed like it was dragged out. Like, if you wanted to spend time with administrative assistants, you could have given the administrative assistants more time and just jump back and forth to the kids crawling through vents and the one girl being just a mean kid. Not impressed. I want some world building around the three kids, because they're just caricatures at this point. Like, you can't
They're all
have
just
them evolve
caricatures at this
if
point.
you're just jumping to administrative assistant conversations.
So I disagree with Gary vehemently about this. I think that you don't have to have just the three same people in every single episode, because you might forget their name later on. You can have tons of other people. You can have other characters and flesh those people out, and just have. This is kind of I don't know. It's not obviously real world, but in a real world scenario, everything doesn't focus around just three random people. Everyone else lives their lives. Some people have to go pick up other people's laundry. It's how life works, and it's fun to kind of put that into actually the world, and make it matter to an extent.
And Gary says this after we watch the entire Game of Thrones series, a series notorious for having how many different kinds of characters. And Gary's like, oh my god, there's more than 3. Why do we even care about these background characters, these nobodies?
Well, because they actually matter in Game of Thrones. Like, I don't know.
They don't.
Maybe these people will matter at some point, but I don't care. Like, I don't like. They can just fill the room with a bunch of red shirts. You don't need to give them dialogue. They just need to follow what the one lady says and move on.
And just imagining the writers being like, how do we make everyone care about them? Well, let's give them backstory. But so Gary, like, you don't care about them. So if they give you backstory, but you don't care to see the backstory because you already don't care about them.
Fair enough. Like, the other characters have like I can't forget people's names, but like there's the Shinji's roommate, and then there's the other gal who's like crazy big scientist, and then there's Shinji's dad, and then Shinji's dad's assistant, and then there's just a whole bunch of other people like Ponytail Guy. Like, I don't assume that Ponytail Guy is gonna have any major plot development. Like, other than he picks up laundry. Like, he's just the guy who complains about picking up laundry. Like,
yeah, I think to Gary's credit, I'll back him up a little bit on this. That, like, having watched the series a couple times before this rewatch, and even in this, I don't know that they say their names, like, as much as I'm the one to be like, oh, you don't remember that's Ritsuko the scientist? I don't know these people's names. I had to look them up to say, like, oh yeah, it's Shigeru Aoba, Makoto Hyuga, and Maya Ibuki. Did we all know that?
No, I mean, like Steven said,
No,
I'm sitting
but-
here criticizing Gary, but I 100% was like, who is this guy? He obviously knows them.
So, but I would say that like you visually can recognize them. Like
Yeah.
when Amanda's like, "Who's this person?" Like, "Oh, I know who that person is. I don't need to have." To Gary's point, I don't need them to tell me their entire life story, but I know
Wasn't
what
in
they're
his
doing.
uniform. Like, wasn't he wearing a hat or something too? And he wasn't wearing the hat this time. How was I supposed to know?
That's
He was
fair
very
enough.
competent, I admit.
Also here before I pass it along, or unless we want to keep talking about that point there.
No.
Okay, I was gonna say the cicada noise was back this episode.
I thought about, I heard it playing,
Was it
and my
really?
first thought was yes.
What
My
is
first thought was
cicadas?
everyone is going to hate on this. Everyone's going to hate on the cicadas.
Have
The
I
fir-
gotten used to it? I didn't even notice it.
The one time it shifts to Shinji and the other children outside walking there, the cicada noise is there and ever present.
Yep.
Steven, why don't you lead us off here with what we're going to talk about for this episode? What do you got?
So one of the things that I found interesting about this episode was how Asuka reacts when they are cut off from everyone. She's like, "All right, I'm going to be the leader now, and do you guys vote for me as leader?" And they're just kind of stare at her, and she's like, "All right, then I'm the leader." And it kind of takes that dynamic of I think we talked about when they were in the pool how they have those three very different personalities which are shown, and Asuka really wants to be noticed as the leader, and maybe we'll probably talk about that in a couple the other episodes. And then you have Rei, who just doesn't give a care in the world, and Shinji, who can't make up his mind about anything either. And it's kind of interesting as they make these decisions blindly through the tunnels, how Asuka keeps getting basically swatted down because she keeps making really dumb decisions, or not dumb decisions, but maybe uninformed. And everyone's uninformed, but hers are particularly uninformed. And she just keeps breezing right through it, almost not even noticing that this stuff is happening, or if noticing it and just that's not my fault, that's everyone else's fault, sort of thing. Gary?
I would agree with that. That obviously it's very notable that they all have different motivations, and Asuka's is like, I'm gonna be the leader. Like, you guys won't know what to do if I wasn't here. But what's the other gal's name?
Rei.
Rei. That's an easy name. Rei. Okay. Rei.
First episode. On the first episode, Gary.
I've already forgotten it. It's secondary character. Anyway,
And her first name is
Rei.
Ayunami, isn't it?
Yes.
Rei Ayanami, yeah.
but her motivation is just to get to the location. So several times she's like, we need to turn right. She's like, no, we're turning left. And it's just like, and she doesn't care enough to be like, well, you're wrong, but I don't it matters so much more to Asuka that she is in charge, and it does not matter to anyone else that they do not have any ambition for leadership. They're just doing the job. Tyler?
Oh, this is more of a question here. Was this the episode where Shinji asks, why did you want to be an Eva pilot?
I believe that's the next one.
Okay, never mind then. JC.
First of all, double checking my notes to make sure that is the case, because I'm pretty sure I put it down there. Yeah,
I think you're right.
I have that as episode 12. So yeah, I was gonna say to the point of that Asuka is, we've seen her before saying kind of defying orders in the middle of a battle just to have that glory of that extra risk of defying the orders and still coming out on top. And here she is doing it whenever it comes to just trying to navigate to the main base. And yeah, Ray definitely she knows what the right answer is. She sits there and studies her emergency handbook. She knows immediately, well, the power's out. Yep, you open up to this page and pull out your little breakaway thing, and you have all that you need to do right there. And she just is happy to let Asuka keep going in circles until suddenly they hear that, there's an angel coming. And then she says, no, we're going to take the shortcut. And so, yeah, she's very much happy to sit back and let things, let people have what they want. Like Asuka, she can be the leader, but whenever we actually need to get down to business, we're going to just do what we need to do. Gary?
Also, they didn't talk about why they became pilots this episode, but they did have a very throwaway conversation while crawling through the ducts of like Shinji being like, why are they called angels? It doesn't really follow like what they are. Like angels are sent by God and this and that. And the response from
Asuka,
is just like, that isn't important. Let's just keep going. And that was, I think, probably one of the better parts of this episode. It's just like an important world building question. Why are they called angels? Does not fit. The name does not fit what they are. And it just gets thrown away. Like, that is not important. Let's crawl some more in the fucking dark.
Okay, to be fair though, that's very much in Asuka's like nature, right? She's straightforward. She doesn't want to, like, for how much she said, how smart she thinks she is, she's not one to ponder on questions. She is very much a get the job done, not a let's contemplate why we're getting the job done.
Do you have anything else, Stephen?
I think we're back to you then, Stephen.
Yeah, I guess the only other thing I guess is the military's finally learned. They're shut off from NERV, and they're like, God damn it, when you finally need these NERV people, you can't get a hold of them. And they're starting to freak out about that. And it's a very different conversation from when we had a couple episodes ago when they're like, we don't need those people. So.
Was that it then for you, Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, there's other stuff. I'm not going to take up the entire episode. Everyone else's stuff.
All right. JC, what do you want to go lead off with?
Yeah, just to kind of overarching talk about the episode. Like, yeah, it is a relatively small episode. It almost feels like if it's the closest thing that an anime can have to one of those boxed room episodes where you just stick around one little area and that's the whole thing. It's a really great angel design this week, but you just kind of see it just a little bit with those almost, to me, we've been having some house centipedes show up lately, so they are very reminiscent of those legs as you come creeping across the landscape and you don't see the angel's body for a while. It's a very good looking episode again from Eva. One little tidbit that I just wanted to point out that I'm sure it's a really quick line where they talk about like how the blackout that ends up happening apparently is a deliberate attack from other people. So they have their We're the Walking Dead moment of man's greatest enemy is his fellow man. And so that ends up being, so now we have to try and also think about this other thing that could potentially be going on in the background. Gary?
I also noticed that it very clearly was confirmed that this was based on sabotage. And at no point did they ever confirm who the hell sabotaged it. And spoiler alert, the next 2 episodes doesn't cover shit on that either. Like, it didn't even happen. So, not impressed. Like, that's how I was watching it. It's just like, oh, so we found out someone sabotaged. And surprise,
absolutely nothing. Yeah, like, that's huge. And I honestly was like, did I miss something? Was I paying attention? Was I taking notes during that time?
Yeah,
I just assumed something was coming at a later point in time eventually there, so it's for as small as this anime is, only 26 episodes, I figured this is an obvious point that they brought up. It's probably going to be covered at some point in time.
But I think you would acknowledge it in the next episode, not just go on to the next administrative issue of the week. Like,
that's
you
the
should
thing, though.
acknowledge someone sabotaged the base.
we're in the monster administrative of the week episodes right now here with
Yeah.
still some world building going on.
Anyway.
What else did you have, JC?
The one cool scene of them launching the Evas manually was super rad. Gendo actually looking like somebody you could root for a little bit was nice change of pace in this episode. Yeah. A lot of fun little details happen. We, us learning about what the Magi is, kind of, we've heard it referenced previously in the series, and then, whenever he talks about the city council being a shroud, and just straight up says like, "Oh yes, 3-link computers." So it's nice to get a little exposition a bit. Whenever the previous set of episodes were just like, "Hey, here's Adam, the first human, and we're not going to tell you anything more about that," and here's this other thing, we're not going to tell you anything. It's nice to have a little bit of exposition in this block of episodes. So that was a good change of pace as well. But that's all I got.
All right, Amanda, what did you have?
Similar to JC, lots of little notes. I didn't have like major things. I wrote down the part about the science computers ruling the government in accordance with the rules of democracy, which I thought was an interesting way of putting it. They're a little uneasy there about that, but I was like, well, okay, let's see. Did anyone else also have like the frustration when you're watching them be like, oh, look, we have backups. Why isn't this wasn't working? This isn't working. The power's out. This isn't working. And I'm like, this is like a real world scenario here that I'm like irritated about as it's happening. And at one point I was like, where'd the candles come from?
Oh yeah, this shadowy government organization has a lot of candles already ready to go. It's nice.
It looks like they were setting up a summoning of some kind in there. Honestly, when I first saw it, I was like, "Oh, look at that! The goat god is coming somehow."
Yeah, like they pulled out fans, megaphones, and like candles, and I was like, megaphones, maybe you can justify that because they are like a building where they probably have to speak across loud things or whatever. But I did appreciate at one point when the angels passing by the billboard in the forest, the closed captions translated it as "you prevent forest fires," and I was like, "Hey!" That was a fun little closed captioning moment I enjoyed. Asuka just I felt like she was just proving she couldn't be the leader, the thing she so desperately wanted to be. But I will give her major points for she jumped into action, she closed the door, she was creating a plan. I was surprised she wanted to be the defense, but of course it is the most dangerous, so that does totally fit her personality. She wants to be that. I did think she was an idiot when she was yelling at Shinji for looking up her skirt. I was like, well, then just have him go in front of you. Like, that's a really easy solution right there. Problem solved. You don't have to yell
But then
at
she
him.
wouldn't be leading, Amanda.
Right.
She was in the middle anyway. Ray was in front, and then she accused Ray of being like holier than thou attitude. And I was like, literally the only one pulling that is you. I was getting really irritated with her.
Amanda had a comment while we were watching this today, and it was, "Am I going to start to like Asuka at some point?" And I'm like, I can't answer that question. First of all,
right? I know you left the room for something, and I was like, I just called out like, "Am I going to stop being annoyed by her soon?" And I mean, that's just her personality right now, but. My other note I wrote was, ugh, Spider Angel. Ugh, as soon as I saw the legs, I was like, great. Naturally. Only 4 legs, and yet awful.
The legs didn't bother me. The freaking eyes bothered me.
When it first appears and it's just like the regular, like, it almost looks like a cartoon, like someone just graffitied some eyes on the outer body of an angel, and
starts to
that's
cry.
fine. Yeah, then the acid tears. Oh, that's not great. I don't like that at all.
Oh, I did, by the way, look up what all these angels are for these episodes. So this one was.
Do we know that yet?
I don't know. I
Spoiler alert,
don't
we
know
do
what
not.
you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about.
Steven
Oh,
spoiled
okay. I
everything.
honestly was like, I'm not sure what he's talking about. That makes sense. So
Thank you.
Steven
Yeah.
ruins everything.
it was very subtle, Daisy.
It's tricky on the synopsis stuff too, because like the synopsis will straight up be like, "Oh yes, this angel named this," and it's
Right.
like,
That's
no, we don't.
where I was getting it from, and I was like,
It's a spoiler block for the next block of episodes. We learn more about some things, so it's not too bad, but yeah, we'll get there.
I
Tune in
actually
next
really
time.
enjoyed these 3 episodes. I don't care that they were administrative problems of the week. I thought they were actually pretty good. Gary and I were not on the same page for this.
I don't think I'm ever on the same page on these episodes, but these were bad.
Do you have anything else, Amanda?
One last note. I enjoyed the very last scene about when they're looking at the stars.
Mhm.
The reminders that they don't know why the angels are attacking.
Mhm.
I thought just like visually too, that was a nice looking shot there of the stars and the pan down to the 3 children basically sitting on that grassy field there, I think it was. Not quite Pen staring at the night sky, but
No. What is, you know?
what is, yeah, exactly.
It was a nice visual and just ruined by the annoying kid. She makes some like bitchy comment about how like it's not really society until the lights are on or something.
well, I think that was kind of profound, though, right? They all had their different takes on what the darkness meant to each of them. I think was it freaking I'm gonna forget his name now.
Shinji?
Ray. Thank you, Shinji. I don't know how I forgot Shinji's name, but Shinji's like it's darkness encroaches on, or is it light encroaches on the darkness, or something? One of those.
I think that was
Something to that
Ray.
extent. Was that Ray? Oh,
Ray
okay.
had the really profound kind of speech part that ended their little conversation.
That's right. But they each had their own like take on what darkness was and what the lights coming back on were, and I thought well, to get back to the Asuka is very blunt, very straightforward, and hey, it's darkness. It doesn't even matter if we don't have light. It doesn't matter if we don't have civilization. While the other two are a little bit more, thoughtful about, well, what does it kind of mean, sort of thing. And I liked it. Obviously, I did not keep the quotes, so I apologize for that. But
Yeah, as people were mentioning it, I remember that I liked it as well, but I also, for some reason, just didn't write it down. But yeah, man fears the darkness, and so he scrapes away at the edges of it with fire, is what Ray says.
yes,
It's very profound things, and of course, Asuka's like, "Oh wow, look at you, nerd." Then Shinji's like, "Yeah, maybe that's why angels are fighting us." And yeah, I like Asuka almost comes across like the creators in this, where she's like, "How do we even know? Like, how are you going to even decide that?" Gary?
Question to the group: is Ray's very insightful comment given more power because the next person to talk is Ahsoka, and it's I'm looking at
Asuka.
the actual spelling and it f's me up. Sorry. That the next person to speak is so like not insightful that it makes her sound that much smarter.
I can see that. Yeah, because I mean, she's at least like approaching something philosophical, and then just like you get the person who's like, "Oh yeah, okay," like, well, yeah, okay, let's maybe hear her out, So I can see that.
I thought Asuka had redeemed herself a little bit at the end there. I'll grant her that, considering I'm being a pretty harsh judge of her so far.
No redemption.
I do think the end of this episode, not the stargazing part, but it does show that if they play off their strengths and not off each other's weaknesses, they make a very strong team. And very often we're only watching their weaknesses. We're watching Shinji's weakness, we're watching Asuka's weakness and how they suck at this way or that way. And when they actually, take that role that they're actually excel at, which, hey, Asuka's a great fighter. Don't take that from her. She's a fantastic fighter and a fantastic war leader. So, yeah, give her that role. Give Shinji the role of the... Maybe I feel bad for him, but the role of the suffer person. He'll suffer. He'll suffer the heck out of it for you. And give Rei that quick thinking role, the role that you have to be very technically proficient at. Like, they have really good strengths that complement each other. They just, for some reason, well, we know what the reason is, because of the TV show. They don't focus on those. They focus on their weaknesses.
Did they explain when Unit 0 got taken off the bench? Because I feel like in previous episodes she was benched. Rei was completely benched. It was like, oh, well, Ahsoka and Shinji will do this fight.
Yeah, so they were actually, the thing that they were doing in the NERV HQ as the power went out was reactivating Unit 0. So once they it's not how I pronounce it. So yeah, they get Unit 0 reactivated, and that's whenever power goes out. So presumably then, yeah, they're able to continue the manual launch process with her and get her back up to speed. Because it was also kind of a little bit alluded to that Gendo was just kind of choosing not to activate Rei for a while, that because they were in the middle of doing tests, and then Gendo just says like, no, pull her out, just send Unit 1. So that's, gosh, it has been a few episodes since we've seen her in action proper, I feel like, but well, that's how I recall it.
All right, Gary, did you have anything else?
I obviously, world building as it is that I don't pay attention to. They mentioned the whole story takes place in Tokyo 3. They mentioned Tokyo 2 in passing. And they're like, oh, well, they're going to destroy Tokyo 2 on their way to Tokyo 3. And I go, I guess Tokyo 2 is like a civilian encampment. I just assumed Tokyo 3 was Tokyo 3 because they destroyed the other two iterations of Tokyo. So it was the third iteration of, but no, there's a second Tokyo. I don't know. Maybe I missed some world building before this. That is there a Tokyo 1 if there's a Tokyo 2 and 3?
I don't know for sure the exact fate of Tokyo 1, but we are reference Tokyo 2 at one point whenever they have that initial disinformation campaign with, I can't remember if it's the first or second angel. It's a small line where like, oh, the mayor of Tokyo 2 is going on TV and announcing why we need to do this and that. And basically it sounds like Tokyo 2 is where civilization still is, and Tokyo 3 is just this military fight ring where all the angels are going to come try and scrap, and it's a city that can defend itself by going underground. It's got the geofront underneath it. It's the NERV HQ, and it's just designed solely almost as a little military town.
So Tokyo 2 cannot go underground. It's just Tokyo 3 that can go underground.
I know the Tokyo 3 can go underground. I don't know enough about Tokyo 2, I guess. Maybe there's some underground tech there, but as far as I know, it's just a town.
Okay. That's the other, like, I don't know. Maybe that's the world building I missed, and I was like, oh, okay. Also, just the silly things I noticed, silly things I note is that Netflix rated this, I don't know, MA for nudity and smoking, and I don't think I remembered nudity or smoking, so I didn't know if it's just a general disclaimer for all the episodes.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Might be, yeah.
I'm pretty sure I've seen it on every single episode.
Maybe I'm just a prude. I just didn't see it.
Old man Gary. Did you have anything else,
We
Gary?
protect the kids from the nudity and smoking. That's all I got for this episode.
I did want to call out one part there between Mitsuko and the one guy in the elevator there. Real perv moment by that guy. It was like,
Yes.
you can take your shirt off around me. It's like, dude. But again, we've had that conversation from like the last couple episodes involving this guy and kind of the time frame in which this anime was made and everything like that.
That's Ponytail guy, right?
So Kaji does rock a ponytail, but then there's also a guy. I've closed the tab. I'm gonna say there's a long-haired dude as well that sits on the control room, and he's the one doing the laundry is at the beginning.
So I thought it was Toji, so that's what made more
Kaji?
confusing. Is because Kaji.
There is a Toji as well.
There is a Toji. I thought you were actually going to reference a real character
I'm
there.
looking up other names because they have really crummy clip art of explaining these people, and then it's like names. So anyway, Kaji. I just assumed it was him because he did another pervy thing in the previous episodes. He was like trying to. She was getting angry because he was making the moves on her, and
yeah,
as I said, I just know him as Ponytail guy.
Yeah, there was the previous instance where he was trying to play footsie with her and calling out that he knew that like what she does in bed, and then here he is now at work, basically. Stuck in an elevator with her by chance, and so sure enough, he's trying to lay on the mid-90s smooth moves, and she's again having none of it. But it is it's an unfortunate continuation point. Yeah.
All right, I think that does it for everybody then for this episode. So we're ready to move on to episode 12. Shaking heads from everyone. Let's go ahead. JC, what do we got?
Episode 12, and I'm just going to reiterate that this is the official US title, like this is how it first came over here. She said, "Don't make others suffer for your personal hatred," or in the original Japanese, "The value of miracles." So, Misato is promoted to the rank of major, but she reveals her long-buried sentiments concerning her work at NERV. A massive angel appears in Earth's stratosphere, and all 3 Evangelions are deployed to stop it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of eyes on these in these 2 episodes, these angels. There's a lot of eyes on these angels. It made me think of going from, obviously they're called angels, the biblically accurate angel stuff that's always talked about, how they have all the burning eyes and they look all weird and whatnot. So I thought that was a kind of a... I assume that must be a little bit of what they're going for here, but it was a kind of a neat kind of representation.
They definitely are unique looking creatures for sure. And
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to move on to some other point.
And they keep evolving too. Like we started off at very humanoid in episode 1, episodes 2, 3, etc. Like they're sometimes they're humanoid and they split into 2. Sometimes they're pyramids. But then these last couple here, now we're getting insectoid. Now we're getting some sort of weird space amoeba with just formless shape almost, because it can also just drop parts of itself. Yeah, it's weird design, and it's always interesting, it feels like.
Yeah, I do like how this episode, to kind of start off my little bit about it here, is how it opened with like Misato's history, like with the angel attack during its second impact, right? That's what they call it.
Yep.
Yeah, her kind of history there of basically being saved by her father during second impact, and then kind of it shows her being promoted right away there towards the beginning of the episode there.
Yeah, that scene is incredible. It's one of my favorite scenes in the whole series. It starts off such a stark point of the episode too, with like the very muted color palette and just the roaring of the winds and everything, and then just these giant golden insectoid like wings erupting out of the Earth's atmosphere. It's such a great shot. Love the design of everything about it.
Agreed. And then we get another, for the first time in a little while there, we get a Pen sighting.
Yeah. And class rep, apparently. Because gotta have class rep.
Exactly.
She was invited somehow. JC, why don't you start us off here this time then for this episode?
So kind of talking a little bit about how last episode we are kind of just the central theme, I guess, with the kids is discussing like they're kind of approaching the subject of like, why are we even fighting these angels? What's going on? What's the larger picture here? And now we do get into the thing that Gary mentioned a little bit earlier, where Shinji's kind of wondering like, why does everybody fight? You know, he's wondering why Asuka fights, and he's trying to figure out. It almost feels like he's trying to figure out why he should be fighting as well. We get to it later on in the episode, but he's talking about it with Asuka, and she's annoyed with him that he gets praised during this harmonics test early in the episode, and he's very happy about it, and she's annoyed with him for being happy that he got praised. Like, he should just be happy that he did a good job and knows he did a good job. And they end up having a party for Masato. She's got a new rank, and at this party he's still just detached, wondering like, well, why is Asuka annoyed with me? And Masato has to tell him like, you should just be happy with your own performance. You don't need to get praise from others, according to Asuka. But he's still just trying to figure it out, and I like that character arc that Shinji's kind of going through in this episode. So smaller note that I put down here, for defeating the angel, Masato promises the kids a steak dinner, and everyone's excited for it. And then as soon as she walks away, Asuka and Shinji are like, wow, these second impact generation, right? Jeez, a steak dinner, like we care. Like, it's just very funny to have like a little Zoomer moment with them, just hating on the olds. It's like, oh, steak, we don't care. Like, they act like they're so poor still. Fun little world building moment, just in a tiny little moment there. I do have more notes, but this is a fairly thorough one for me, so I can skip around and come back to flesh out some more, folks, if that works.
Sure. Steven.
I guess, yeah, like we pointed out, I really liked the beginning of the episode where it shows Captain, or now Major Kasagi basically getting promotion, not caring about it one even slight bit, and everyone else is gonna throw a party for them, and she is just like, and even Shinji asks like, "Don't you care?" She's like, "I mean, not really. It doesn't impact," I think she says, "it doesn't impact why she joined." And then he asks her why she joined as well, which we're talking about the why do you fight? And that's what it brought me back to, is the why do you fight? And she doesn't remember either. She said, "I don't remember why I joined at this point." Which obviously is a lie, because she joined because she's trying to get revenge on the angels, as is kind of pointed out a little later. I guess the other big thing for me was at the end when Shinji finds out why he wants to fight, because he goes and stops the angel from falling on him with his AT shield, and then his father actually praises him, calling it, "Shinji, you did a good job." I think that's probably the first time Shinji's ever heard that from his dad in his life. And so they go to eat at the other side of the steak thing. Is apparently Masato doesn't have the money to pay for a steak dinner for 3 teenagers. Like, you gotta wonder what they're paying these people about. Who knows? But then they end up at a ramen place, and he's like, "I actually know why I fight Nora. It's for the praise, because the praise makes you feel good," and has this weird happy smile on his face, and I guess that's why he thinks he's fighting now. And it looks really weird and really off to an extent for me. But I don't know. There was a lot of they also, I guess, one last thing is they do go to the Arctic in this episode. And that's one of the reasons why Masato's in charge, is because Commander Shinji and his helper, whose name I don't remember, are in the Arctic. And it's, I guess I'm not entirely sure if they explain exactly why they're in the Arctic right here. But obviously tied onto the carrier is this massive thing that they're not going to talk about. And the Arctic is red, blood red, with like things sticking up from the ice, and that's compared to hell. And they Commander Ikari and his aide have a rousing discussion on whether it is pure and clean, and whether that is preferable, or whether the pollution of humanity is preferable. And I thought that was a kind of a neat little conversation that they have there too. Gary.
I'm gonna 100% disagree with Steven. The reason Masato doesn't care is because throughout the episode it is very visible her responsibilities didn't change. If anything, as I've been listening to Steven blah blah blah, I realized the rank is literally a MacGuffin in this episode, because without the rank, she has no reason to boss anyone around or take on a super risky plan with no one else to override her, because she has rank. But her responsibilities don't change for crap in this episode. It just gives her the ability to tell other people this is what we're doing. It has no value otherwise. It doesn't even seem to affect her pay. And in war, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just that she gets to boss other people around. JC.
Steven, did you have a direct retort to that?
I did.
I'll let you go ahead then.
My direct retort to that is that she was being promoted for recognition of what she had been doing. So yes, her roles did not change because she was doing what a major would have been doing at that time anyways. So yes, I agree with you that her rank changing didn't affect normal life, as she basically acknowledges, but it does matter in terms of now she has that formal authority, where before this she has been kind of going, back end ways to get what she wants done. She hasn't been just straight up forced to say, yeah, no, this is what we're doing now. She has to kind of work for it.
But is it a MacGuffin?
No, I guess everything's a MacGuffin. All the world's a MacGuffin, Gary.
Gary, how about you define for us what MacGuffin is here?
A MacGuffin is something that moves the plot forward. So I guess the way the episode would end if she wasn't a major would have been that they would just all frickin' ran. It was only explained in the beginning of the episode because they needed to explain how it happened later in the episode. It didn't need to be said. It could have just been she was in charge, but why is she in charge? Because now she's ranked higher. That was it. That's maybe I misused the term, which occasionally I do misuse words, so
I'm just thinking that I don't think it doesn't matter. It's a recognition of her ability, and I think we have all acknowledged her ability here, and that she is capable of leading at a higher level, that she has been leading at a higher level. And I mean, yeah, technically, in terms of if we wanted to distill this down to the pure plot, Gary, I bet we could watch this entire thing in an hour. Like, if we want just plot, it would just be 1 hour. If you actually want to watch the show, like, who's a MacGuffin? Hot Pie. Hot Pie's a MacGuffin. Yeah, we watched him, didn't we? I'm just saying.
How dare you insinuate that I watched Popeye? I do not. I was going to bring it back a little bit earlier. You mentioned the closing thing that Shinji has the revelation that he pilots because he wants praise. Specifically, I feel like he calls out that he wants to hear his father say things like that. He's looking for his dad's praise because he's been getting praise from other people, and he feels good about that. But like, now that his dad said, "Good work, Shinji," that's it. Now that's what he needs every week now. So it's an extra little specific hitch to that that search for praise now, which kind of led me to a question I had for everybody. Like, do we think that this that is really going to be a long-term goal for Shinji at this point? Do you think that's are we excited that he now has a goal that he's found for piloting the Eva? Shatsi?
I hope it's only a temporary goal because I don't think his dad could give much praise that often there. So, Steven?
Seems very toxic if that's what he's going to be working for. If you're only working for other people's praise, you're going to be like Asuna or Asuka. You are going to end up having to be in the forefront of everything, and if you don't, what happens when you get let down? It seems very, very toxic.
Yeah,
Jerry?
I feel like if he couldn't pilot an Ava, he'd just be as good as a stepchild or like a adopted kid. Like he doesn't matter. Like his dad takes no ownership of him, except for if you believe in the time clone theory, and then it makes sense.
Oh my god.
That is all.
Almost thought we'd get through this recording without that being mentioned.
Nah.
I had to hold my own tongue at some point, especially whenever we were confused about Shinji's name. I was about to just call him Young Gendo.
Yeah, I guess those are the 3 big points for me.
Okay. Amanda, did you have anything you'd like to discuss?
From this episode, I only have little notes for this one. My biggest revelation was at the beginning is when it was showing the thing with Misato. I thought for a second that she was a pilot the way it was showing it. I am very eager for more details about that. I literally think I gasped out loud and was like, oh, she was a pilot. No, it looks like she was just injured, but like I want way more details about this. Like, why was she in Antarctica? What happened? Also, I don't know if I want to ask you guys this. Is Antarctica like gone? It's just water now with some weird fire.
Is
At
it-
first I thought they were glaciers, but
In the
Is it-
real world or in the show?
Yes.
It's
yes, Carrie, I want to know in the real world. Is Antarctica still there? Can you tell me that?
I couldn't. Don't know if it exists.
Then the show will do instead. Can you tell me in the show?
Yeah, yeah.
Because at first I thought they were still traveling there, and now I was studying those little glaciers because they were very thin and tall little things, and now I'm thinking the landmass basically got blasted off the face of the earth.
I'm pretty sure that's what they're implying.
Well,
Or
I assume
at
it's-
least in the area that they're at, I should say that's what they're implying.
Your guys' smiles are telling me there's more to it, so I think I'll just stop
I
asking
don't-
questions.
Even from my own side, without knowing any spoilers, that's as far as I understand, that's the case as well. But that's just from knowledge that we already have of them kind of discussing around the situation.
Like, I
I
didn't
just
realize
assume
just
it's like
how.
a chain. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I just didn't realize just how bad it was. Like, I mean, obviously it was bad. Obviously it was devastating. Obviously there was a hell of a crater. But no, I was like, oh, the whole continent's just gone.
I just assumed it was a chain of islands now, like Hawaii, that maybe just has volcanoes or something like that. Like a giant
ice
asteroid
version.
burrowing into the Earth, I assume would make volcanic activity, and so there's probably a lava flow there now. Science in that, I don't know.
Like, I wonder
Science
how
in
that works.
that.
How does Antarctica, like, if the land is gone, does that mean the sea level? I won't
Amanda,
think too hard on this.
Amanda, can I have a question for you? How many cities have we seen that are underwater?
Yeah, but that's my point though. Like, I mean, if the land is gone, isn't the water having to cover like more space? I'm going to.
Antarctica's very small land-wise. A lot of ice.
I forget about that because it's at the bottom of the atlas, so you always think it's this huge mass.
yeah. What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
They
On the
look
bottom
up.
of the map, I see it's just this giant landmass there,
Right?
and Hawaii is down here, and Australia.
Yeah, exactly.
Alaska is really just right here.
And Greenland is massive, guys. Freaking huge.
I don't know. That's still I will wait. I will wait, and I will observe more episodes, and we will see if I get what explanation I get here.
All right. Climatologist Amanda, I expect to report back in 4 episodes as to the state of the world.
Well, at the rate this show likes to drop actual explanations, it's going to take a lot longer than that.
I enjoy just looking like, does Antarctica still exist? And then you get other Google searches of like,
Oh,
is
no.
Antarctica a country? Can people live there? Just
Pen for mayor.
And Ben for mayor.
On this episode of Gary Surfs the Internet.
what was the
Oh no.
Is Antarctica still there, Gary? In real
Oh,
life or
yeah,
in the show?
we found out previously in the American dub, doesn't hit Antarctica, it hits the South Pole. And this is why, because no one knows where Antarctica is. They assume that if you know where Santa's from, the North Pole, the South Pole is where somebody else is from. I don't know.
I think we determined it was Santa's brother Bob lives at the South Pole. Bob
okay.
Claus.
Bob Claus.
Steven, you keep pronouncing it Asuka.
Asuka.
So I kept
That's right.
pronouncing it until I was whenever I'm not watching with you, and I watch the English version instead because I just still haven't ever set it
Is
up.
it Asuka?
The way they pronounce it is like Asuka. They like barely hint
Oh,
at the
yeah,
U.
I can't-
Very subtle.
Yeah, I can't. I'm very.
Oh, okay. I thought you
I
were
would
just
really
being
ha-
like.
No,
I thought you
I
were
would.
just being stubborn. I'm
I
sorry.
would really have to work at a subtle pronunciation. I am not good at subtle pronunciation, so I won't get that very well.
I'm not good at subtle or pronunciation.
That is true.
Okay. Amanda, I think we were at you there. Did you have any more?
I'm a little bit wondering. There was that one little thing dropped in about while he's in Antarctica. One of them makes the comment about original sin, about how the area they're in, it's untainted by original sin. And I was like, did he just call humans original sin? Like, there's no one.
Who else would have done it, Amanda? Who else does the original sin other than the humans?
Okay, so that was a thing. Interesting, because he goes, it's I don't remember what he says, like something about how beautiful or look at this magnificent vista or something like that, basically. And he's like, untainted by original sin. And I was like, no people? Untainted? That's an interesting outlook.
Is original sin greed? Because what destroys the earth is inevitably greed, people getting rich, people polluting
No.
the world. Like,
No,
that's the
original sin is a very specific thing.
It's the apple.
The apple.
Yeah, but like,
It's doing what you're told basically not to. It's knowing what. It's the forbidden knowledge.
I just thought it was a strange comment to make about, first of all, they're literally in an area that has been apparently destroyed, wiped off the planet. Literally nothing there. It's just water now. And he's like, oh, it's so amazing. It's untainted by original sin. What? Okay, so if you just wipe out the whole planet, oh my god, what a beautiful place, untainted by any humans.
Well, this time, though, we have science on our side. Science is our magic against the...
We have science that is ruling the world government in accordance with the rules of democracy. I am so very entrusting in these words. Okay, well, that's all I have for now. Can't wait to find out what happens next.
Okay. Gary, I think you're the last one to go again here.
I was just curious, like, I was expecting Steven to have a much bigger opinion on the rank on the collar. Is that like how the historical background of that and this and that? But I guess he got nothing.
I guess the only two things I'll note.
You started it.
Yeah, you started it, so I'm gonna do it. Last episode, they had the Japanese Self-Defense Force. They didn't have UN planes and helicopters flying around, which I thought was very unique and interesting, because apparently even in this world, the Japanese are not allowed a actual military. They're only allowed a self-defense force, which is a relic of World War II, for anyone who doesn't know where. but also it's not UN stuff. Everything else is UN stuff. So why is it the Japanese self-defense force that's doing all this stuff? So that was a little weird to me. But and when they're sailing to the Antarctic, it's UN ships that are sailing to the Antarctic with big UN on them, just so you're aware. Also, it was like a Nimitz class or an Enterprise class carrier. I want to say that was sailing. No, not even slightly. I'm lying to you. Not even slightly.
Anyway, my other note was before realizing at the end of the episode that Shinji's motivation is praise. Like, I wrote a note before we got to that point where it's like, oh, Shinji got an attaboy from his father. Like, based on the look on his face, you'd think he might have just shit his pants. Like, he just was like, oh my god. What is this? What is this mysterious feeling I have of somebody actually acknowledging my work? Anyway, that was all. That's all I have this episode. We are clear to go to the next episode, or Tyler can close it out.
So the one last thing I wrote down here was like their whole plan of stopping the angel from falling on the planet there. I kind of wrote down here, I don't think physics works here like they depicted it, where an object falling from space is all of a sudden suddenly stopped. I mean, you could hand wave it away by the the AT field, is that what it is? You could hand wave it away like that. I'm sure it like dampens the inertia from the impact, whatever. But I'm just kind of like, man, that thing would have carved a bigger crater than that if it had actually done this. But again, this is a TV show with giant robots and these things called angels coming down. You have to suspend disbelief a little bit here. But Steven?
I think they do try to explain it with the AT fields because it's two AT fields that make contact. So maybe there's like a weird cushiony thing that happens there. And I don't know, but I was thinking of rods from God the entire time while they're dropping these little things from space on the land. And yeah, you're right. I mean, all you would need is just the weight of that thing crashing down if you had that extra AT field. You're right.
Could you say that one more time in a clear thing so that way I can capture the audio for later?
Tyler is wrong.
Yes. All right. That's my text message noise from here on out. All right. I think then we are good to move on to episode 13, unless you guys had any final points you wanted to touch on. Getting a lot of no's. Okay. What do we got for episode 13, JC?
Episode 13, Lilliputian Hitcher? Don't know if I said that right. Or Angel Infiltration. During a simulation plug experiment, an angel with the ability to mimic computer circuitry manages to invade the Magi supercomputer system and trigger a self-destruct sequence. Ritsuko delves into the system's inner workings and leads a furious attempt to cancel the process.
My only comment I'm going to make is it seems like this is all just hand waved away by basically just being nanomachines, son. Which kind of is, yeah. But Amanda, why don't you kick us off for this episode? Yeah. Stick that thumb somewhere else, Gary.
Context.
I will make no comments comparing this to Replicators, first of all.
Boo.
I actually really enjoyed this episode, and I thought it was just a really heart-pounding little sequence of watching the thing hack. I was like stressed, and I was watching this on my phone, and my phone was getting closer and closer to my face as I was like, it was great. I thought they did a wonderful job of it. Confused about the computer stuff. We learn a little bit about Ritsuko and her mom wrote this programming apparently. I was confused by some of the things. At one point, Ritsuko says like, change to something to 15 whatever. This is computer speak beyond me. I had no clue what she was saying. Apparently, it was a brilliant idea, and it slowed down the hack. I would love that to be explained to me more. I couldn't appreciate her genius since I had no clue what it meant. I just understood that her genius slowed down and gave them 2 hours to figure something out. That was really happening, and like this computer went from literally just being a little bit of a water stain to taking over the entire thing within minutes. And she had this rapid fire idea.
I think she reversed the polarity.
Oh, good. You didn't know what it was either.
Yeah, I am pretty confident that a lot of the technobabble in this is supposed to be technobabble, and we are supposed to reverse the polarity so that the quantum drive doesn't overload the flux capacitor.
Because she had another idea later when they're talking about evolving the creature.
Here, change logic mode, set sync code to 15-second intervals, is what she says.
Yes. What does that mean? I want to know.
Oh, you know what it might be?
Hmm.
The stuff is evolving, right? So maybe she's slowing down the pattern of how fast the computers can think. So if she slows down the computers, maybe that's slowing down how fast the thing can think until it, evolves to compensate for that. But obviously, it's technobabble. I firmly believe it's technobabble.
Well, I'm kind of glad to hear you guys not instantly explain to me, because then I was like, okay, so I was gonna feel really stupid if everyone in the world just knows and I don't. But I would appreciate a little more explanation just so I can understand just how genius her idea was. And then she had another idea later on when they were talking about evolving the creature that I was also like, cool. What does that mean? I understood that they're going to make it evolve faster and faster and faster. I didn't quite catch the ending part of it. But I really did like, most of all in this episode, the idea of like the three magi. They had 3 different computers, and as her mom said, it was 3 different parts of her. Very, very provoking thing. And I was sitting here being like, oh, how many parts of me would I have? Would it be this? There's this, there's that. The computer, they were designed to like work with each other, but also to work against each other. Got your own little, I mean, and again with 2 episodes ago when they made that comment about science deciding in the accordance of rules of democracy. Now I know this is Japan, but I was like, they have 3 branches of government here, people. Clicking on my notes. I have a couple other little things, but I want to see what you guys say.
All right, we'll do something different here. We'll go with Gary next.
Ooh. His face just lit up like
It
Christmas.
will be a very short list of notes, which is that I did not like this episode. I feel like it just went science crazy. Imagine somebody had a very long plot they run, and there's lots of technical things they wrote down, and they have a backstory, and they just explain the bare minimum. Or the entire plot of this episode was written on a bar napkin. Because it's just like, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and this is how it's going to do. Well, how do we explain that? What do they say? I don't know. Just blah, 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 technobabble, and just make up some crap and move the pictures along, and the pain will be over soon enough. Like, that's how I felt as soon as they went like, we got to do this. Like, I just need to get through this fucking episode, because it is just technobabble. It got better, but it was like a point where it just dove into like, oh, there's nano machines, no, and it being attacked from the inside. I'm like, dude, you got to keep this on the effing rails, or at least give us something to grasp at that's at arm reach. Like, not knowing the backstory of a character is a lot different than just like making up a bunch of science crap and going off the rails. Also, the point I made previously is that like the 3 teenagers are in this episode for like 2 minutes, and then it's just like a bunch of admin issues, and obviously the science lady was important and she's got a backstory, and this is kind of, I think this episode's trying to feel out her backstory, but it's just, I did not feel like this episode was well. I think a better episode could have been made with the plot points. And that is all I have to say about this episode. I didn't take any other notes. I just was like waiting for it to be over. Back to you, Tyler.
So angry, Gary. Just so angry.
I did not like this episode. I'm sorry.
Steven.
I actually did enjoy this episode because I don't like Gary specifically. So one of the things that I guess the first thing that I noticed was one of the things Risako says, the scientist lady, is mother is healthy as ever. And she says that before we understand that she believes that her mother put the 3 different types of her personalities into the 3 different magi. And so she's talking basically about the magi being her mother, because that's where she's poured her heart and soul and mind. So she considers that that's her mother as time progresses endlessly on. And I think Risako talks a lot about in this episode how time is moving on, how she's getting older, and it's a kind of a side of her you don't see before now. She's very sciencey, very in the science, in the weeds of all that sort of stuff. And this, she's very mortal. She's contemplating her mortality, and so it's a different thing. It's something you don't normally see from her. Second, I think the imitation bodies are weird. So that's just me. You get plugged into imitation bodies, and they have to be naked to do it and be super sterile. And honestly, I kind of get that. I mean, you have to be. I don't understand why they couldn't build 3 walls, but hey, whatever. But yeah, you have to be just absolutely pure, nothing around you to see if it gets the sync rate any better. And they do say while they're in there, before everything goes haywire, it feels different. It feels weird, and I don't know if they actually expand on how it feels different or weird and what goes on there. One of the other things I really liked in this episode is the type of angel. I really, really enjoy that this angel was this basically slime mold. Like, it's explained as a hypercomputer at the end, or mini computers at the end, microcomputers. But it's basically like a slime mold, just getting in, going the best route here, best route there, adapting. And it's where we keep talking about these different kinds of angels and how they're all so different, and how we have gone from the monstrous to the human to the inhuman, and now to just something it literally has no physical conception, no body. And I think I see these as really cool. I do think there is a lot of techno babble. Gary is right about that, and it's to make us understand just how much smarter the scientist lady is than anyone else there. That's just, it is what it is. That's just how it's going to work. But in the very end, she goes into one of the magi, and maybe you guys have the noted which magi she goes into. I don't actually have that one noted. But it's the very last one. I forget which name it is. But
maybe?
Sure. It has all of her mother's notes everywhere. And things like, oh, there's a back door here. Oh my gosh, I didn't know you could use C as a variable. I didn't know you could do this, that, or this, that. And it's almost like finding the developer's notes in a code. It's really kind of neat and kind of cool. So I enjoyed that part. Not necessarily. I like that the last thing, and I'll let other people talk. I promise. I apologize. But the last thing I really liked was that the 2 smartest people in there are the women. It's not making any pretense of, the guys must be better coders, better scientists, or whatnot. It's the lead scientists, and it's her protege that are in there just hacking the hack away. It's pretty innovative for the 90s, if you really want to talk about that. So, yeah, Tyler.
There was a moment on mine, I don't know if it showed up for you, where like there was panning in that computer there with all the notes and stuff like that, and there happened to be this big black text, I think, written on there. I don't know if you guys had it where it translated for you, where I think it says like Gendo, you suck or something like that.
No, I did not see that.
I did not see that.
So I thought
I
that
did enjoy them fangirling over all the notes, so that was awesome.
Mm-hmm. I think JCU might be next if you had anything for this episode.
The one little bit inside while they're crawling around inside the Magi is whenever Misato is just chilling there, and it's like, oh, so this is your mom's brain? And she's like, yep, angle grinder to the brain. Like, it's really moment. But otherwise, yeah, I feel listening along, it sounds like a lot of the spots that I took notes of already got covered. Kaji being up to some spy stuff. I don't know if we saw that too much, but he's rooting around somewhere, running around Central Dogma, talking about how he sees the angel and is like, oh, I guess that's what it looks like. This will have to wait. I don't think we see anything more of him in there. I meant to watch this episode a second time and didn't quite catch or have time. Steven?
So it's interesting to bring up the Gendo point because the Kaji point is we talked about who shut off the power before, and we've already seen Kaji do stuff that seems contrary, shall we say, to the interest of everyone else at NERV. If I was a betting person, they've introduced one spy and one unscrupulous vagabond into this show. It almost seems to me like they're setting him up to be that. We talked about the power outage. I mean, that it makes me think that maybe he was responsible for it. Obviously, we have no sort of. And even thinking of.
They don't directly confirm anything at this point
Yeah.
yet. But yeah, I'd say the illusions are there.
Anything else there, guys?
I've got one more question to sum up after everybody's gone. So, Steven, if you've got another point, go ahead.
Oh, I just think it's funny that the Magi can all vote on self-destructing everything without any external human input because self-destruction democracy. So, anyways.
In that case, this is, if we're wrapping up episode 13 here, that's the halfway point of the TV series. So I know that Steven, I guess, even including Steven, since this is now a rewatch, how's everybody's mood on the series so far? What are some takeaways you got? Start with Shatsy.
My big thing so far is I am surprised that I have not just gone through and just watched the entire series here. Like I've been multiple times, I will get done and be like, okay, I'm just going to keep going here. But it's like, nope, I'm going to stick to watching the episodes we do. As far as what I've watched, I have really enjoyed it here so far. It's a very interesting show. It's definitely got a lot of those anime tropes that I've kind of witnessed with some of the other stuff that I've watched, where it's like, especially like I noticed it. I think I don't even think I wrote it down about this stuff, but some of these episodes we watch, where it seems like it's just a common trope with anime, where you have like I noticed it more with the female characters, but like somebody's talking, they're upset, and then all of a sudden the next line they utter is like, calm and collective and stuff like that. So it's just kind of, again, one of those funny things from anime there. But so far, again, I like it. I wish we got more mechs and stuff like that battles, but at the same time, though, too, coming from watching Gundam Wing before this here, can't always get what I want. Steven.
So my rewatch, I'm really more focusing on like the metaphysical stuff that it kind of goes into. It's a lot of it's a little bit higher. It makes allusions to the angels and stuff like that. It makes allusions to this weird biblical stuff in the end of the world and all the sort. And I enjoy paying attention to that now. And I think I've pointed out like the different formations of the angels and all that sort of different stuff. It's interesting watching the inhuman aspect of it on the second watch through. Also, how so many of the guys in here are pretty much absolute jerks and dicks, and don't super notice that when you watch it as a kid.
Amanda or Gary, any inputs at this point? Gary?
I only am hoping it gets better. I did not like episode 13. I
Fair.
did not like for other 2 episodes were kind of on par with like kind of keeping me interested. Episode 13, as soon as I went into techno
Well,
babble, I was just like, this is
Well, what about the overall 13 episodes that we have watched? Like,
overall 13. I think I'm hoping that this is like a mid-season slip in quality. Like it was just, as you say, background information, like that. Hopefully it'll pay off in the next episode. Because if it doesn't pay off, then it was just a bottle episode for no reason whatsoever.
sure, but without it, okay, pretend the 13th episode doesn't exist. What is your opinion of the show so far?
Or perhaps put another way, what are you looking forward to with the remaining 13 episodes?
I feel like I still actually care about the characters, specifically the 3 younger pilots. So I'm interested to see how they're going to evolve, and if you're going to get a cosmic shift in one or all of them, or if there's going to be a magical additional person. Because as I'm struggling to find names, I see that I only have names for about half the characters in this pie chart of effing pictures and names that the internet has. So I assume several more people are going to be introduced. Or they're just fan fiction characters. That would be
Right.
even better.
It's their Sonic their Sonic write-ins are added to Eva. Yep.
I'd have to say I'm actually really enjoying the season so far. I'm sorry for Gary and his sadness at beholding the 13th episode, but I was humming this song all day long without realizing it out loud around my coworkers.
Theme song's a banger. Theme song is a banger.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe it's okay because literally none of them mentioned a thing. It wasn't until about halfway through my workday that I was like, oh, I was doing this out loud. Oh well.
Fun fact,
Hopefully.
crowd, she actually hummed this to our small child as she was trying to get her to bed. What was this, 5 nights ago?
Did I
I
really?
remember this happening. Yes, I remember. I was standing there. I'm going, is this the? Yeah, this is definitely the theme song. But you're trying to put her to bed, so I'm just walked away. I'm like,
Hey,
go
she
for it.
liked my
Whatever.
singing voice. Okay, you're all welcome. No, I'm really enjoying, especially the first couple episodes when I was like, what have I gotten myself into? When I was like, I don't know what's happening. I'm so confused. We haven't really gotten those time jumps anymore. Like we are still getting them, but I don't know if I'm just used to them or if they've calmed down a little bit. But I do want to know what's happening, and I've learned my lesson about not asking Steven what's going on or not saying something sarcastically out loud so that he'll actually be forced to decide if he says something. Just basically ignoring him entirely. Just don't look at him. But no, I'm really enjoying it. I really am, and the theme song is still on my running list. I enjoy it quite a bit.
I'm looking forward to more conspiracy theories. I'm in an entire episode, no conspiracy theories other
Yes,
than
I know.
resurfacing the time clone theory.
I'm putting that on my calendar. No conspiracy theories this entire episode.
Dear Diary, September 3rd, 2004.
Today there was no conspiracy theories. I hardly know what to do. Like, was this even a podcast?
Yeah.
Are
You
you
are
really Gary?
We are recording.
Conspiracy theory
so
number 1. This
Gary
isn't
is an
actually
angel.
Gary. Oh God. That's why he's trying to throw us off our tracks here.
So then to throw it back at you, JC, how have you been enjoying watching the episodes along with us talking about the episodes?
It's been a blast. I really like seeing this show from a. Typically, I would binge it whenever I was going through it before. It was just it's has that draw where you want to find out the information to all these tiny breadcrumbs that they have, where it's like, yep, here's Adam, the first human, and you're like, well, I'm gonna watch until I find out. And turns out 5 episodes later, you still haven't found out anything else about it. You're gonna keep trying to find the next episode. So yeah, it's I appreciate taking my time with it and really appreciating the details, giving it more rewatches. And it's been a blast, I think, talking through it and getting a lot of different perspectives on it. Because typically, whenever I first watched it, it was just like it was a show that I knew and nobody else I knew had watched it, so I couldn't talk to anybody about it. So it's very much especially a show that approaches personalities and different backgrounds, and it's a show about like kind of what you're bringing to the table. Shinji's got his own hangups. Asuka has her hangups. Rei is Rei. So you have you have that different thing to where someone who's a very confident person could come in and identify more with Asuka. So it's been a blast to kind of get those different takes on it in that sense. And yeah, these first 13 episodes are a lot of world building, as we kind of mentioned, and a lot of setup. I'm looking forward to the remainder of the season and kind of seeing, especially all of the yearning for information that we have right now. Looking forward to seeing that pay off here in the coming weeks.
All right. Well, I think then that does it for us for the discussion so far. So, what are we looking forward to next time, JC?
Next time, we will slow it back down to 2 episodes. We're going to check out episode 14, Weaving a Story, or this is going to trip me up. I believe it's Seele, the Seat of the Soul. It's another one of those German words. And episode 15, Those Women Longed for the Touch of Others' Lips and Thus Invited Their Kisses, or Lies in Silence.
Wow, what a change there between titles.
Right, yeah, and I feel like the U.S., you would, with Those Women Longed for the, that sounds like something like, oh yeah, that's the Japanese stuff. Nope, that's what they shipped it to the U.S. for first. Translation team specifically was like, nah, Lies in Silence, that's not, this needs to be Those Women Longed for the Touch of Others' Lips and Thus Invited Their Kisses. That's what this episode's about.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, as always, we thank everybody for listening here. Tune in next time when we discuss episodes 14 and 15 from Neon Genesis Evangelion. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.